Hi, my name is Ernie Diapera, your top money coach in Southern California. I'll be sharing with you some cash flow ideas. The keyword is adaptability in today's challenges. As we know, money is not everything, but it solves a lot of problems, including the lack of it. So I'll be sharing with you some cash flow ideas that will help you adapt in today's challenges. Consider these questions as we move on. Who do you know that would benefit from this? Think about the people who are suffering today simply because they lack money or they don't understand how money works. Will this help you and your family in this very difficult time? Are you intrigued by this, that you would like to learn more about this? So, what do? Well, we help people transition from merely being employees to becoming self-employed, and also have the opportunity to build their own business within the organization without having to put any capital and make the kind of money they want to make. What is our business about? It's all about helping you understand how to make your money work for you. And that is the main topic of our discussion today. So, first is you've got to learn the 4 cornerstones of a sound investment. The first rule in investment is growth. Now, the inflation rate in California today is about 3.3%. I don't know which state you are, but regardless, the rule of 72, which was created by Einstein, will help you understand the importance of interest rate. Let's take, for instance, your savings account. We know that they are now paying 1% today, maybe 0.01. We call it 0.0 nothing. But let's just pretend that you are getting paid 1%. So using the formula, you divide 72 by 1, it will take you 72 years to double that $1,000 that you deposit into your savings account. If you're 30 years old today, that's going to be 102. I don't even know if you're going to see that day. In the meantime, while it sits there, what does your bank do with that money? Well, they either lend it back to you in the form of a credit card. They charge you 20-29% depending on your FICO score, or reinvest it outside, earn a minimum of about 10%. Using 72 formula, you divide it by 10, they only need about 7.2 years to double that money, so that they can make a lot of money off of your money for them, not for you, simply because you don't know your options. So, first rule is to grow that money. If you're not growing that, you are losing because it will be eaten up by inflation. The second rule is being able to secure that gain. What is the point of making $1,000 today only to lose it tomorrow? Now, you can see that the market is going up and down in the last few months. Now, let's just say you made $1,000 today and then tomorrow you lose it. What's the point? Well, what if your investment looks more like an escalator rather than a roller coaster? That means you're preserving your gains. That would even be better. So now you're not only growing it, you are also securing your gains. What about your tax implications? If you're an employee, most likely you have a 401k, you have a 403b, you have a TSP or whatever tax deferred account your employer gave you as a benefit. Now, you know that if you're going to touch that money today as an emergency fund and you are below 59 and a half, you're going to be subject to that rule that you will be losing 40% of that money every time you touch it. Is that okay with you? So if you withdraw 1,000, you're basically giving away 400 of that. Now, even if you didn't touch it today and you kept on contributing heavily on your 401k, what you're building there is tax liabilities because you're not paying taxes today. And so even if you saved $1 million today and you're ready for distribution later, you're going to be owing the government at least $300,000 in tax liability. Is that okay with you? But what if you can have tax advantages that you don't have to owe the government that much? Now, what about protection? What if one day you're not able to work? Is there something in place that could replace you or your income today? What if one day, if you're the sole provider for your family, you're no longer here? Is there something in place that could replace you as a provider? And what if you start needing care? we know that nursing care is very expensive, especially in California or even in other states. So if you stay in a nursing home today in California, that will cost you at least $100 grand a year. That is today, not tomorrow when you're going to need it. So that investment need to be able to pay for that care, not your family or your savings, because you're going to dry up your funds sooner or later. So you have to know the four enemies of money and beat them. Number one is inflation. Number two is market risk, because if you are constantly losing money, you are not building wealth. What about taxes? You don't want to build huge tax liabilities when the time that you need it the most. What about yourself? That is your worst enemy if you don't know your options and you're not taking the right action today, because you will pay all the consequences tomorrow. So the key is understanding the three tax brackets. As they say, there are two certain things in America: death and taxes. So might as well understand how to but have tax advantages so that you can minimize the implication or the impact of taxes on your hard-earned investments. Okay, so on your first tax bracket, it's called Tax Me Now. So whenever you put money in your savings account, your CD, your money market, or even your mutual funds, otherwise known as your brokerage account, you're telling the government, okay, tax me now. Okay, so are you ready to pay taxes today on those investments? The advantage of that is you have access to the money. That is your emergency funds. But what about the disadvantage? Well, you're going to get taxed right away. So if you are already making a lot of money today and you are investing heavily in your tax now bucket, that will add up to your taxes today. Okay? Now what about your tax me later? Okay? There's your 401k, your pension plan from your company, or your 403b or other similar tax deferred account, or even your IRAs, or even your personal pension plan. Now, there's nothing wrong with this because you are deferring taxes, and therefore you are lowering your taxes today. But there are the disadvantages. You know that you are also building tax liabilities at the time you need it the most. And the question that you need to ask is, what are the chances that the government will increase taxes tomorrow? It's huge. In fact, I met this engineer. He was overfunding his 401k, putting 18% and a catch-up of 5%, total of 23% aggressively. And it's only being matched 6%. So I asked him why. I said, well, I want to have enough retirement money. The problem there is he's overexposed in the market. If the market crashes, he could lose half or even more of that. And the worst part is he is building huge tax liabilities. Imagine even if he saved $1 million on those funds, when he starts distribution of that fund, when he retires, he's going to be owing the government at least 300 grand in taxes. Is that okay with you? After learning all these things, he ended up lowering his contribution down to 6%. That is the matching point of the company. The point there is, now with that, if the market goes up, he still doubles his gain because it's being matched dollar for dollar. The big difference now is if the market crashes, he's going to lose only half of his money because half of it came from the company. Now, what does he do with the 17% that he used to overfund with his 401k? Well, now that he understands that there is what you call the tax me never or tax never bucket, he has decided to transfer that 70% so that he can pay the taxes today on those funds while it's low, and tomorrow when he needs it, he doesn't build tax liabilities on those funds. One consideration was Roth IRA, and there's another one which is 529 if he has kids, and there's the product called LIRP. Now, let's analyze each. The Roth is good if you are to have tax advantage tomorrow. However, there are income limits. So if you are single making over $124,000, you're not qualified. Or even if you're a couple making more than 196 or 200 grand, you're not qualified. Even if you do qualify, there's what you call contribution limit. You can only put $6,000 a year if you are below 50 or $7,000 if you are over. So that's not a lot to build enough retirement money. This engineer, however, is not qualified. So I introduced him to LIRP. Now what about the 529? If you have kids, a lot of families, a lot of parents consider having college funds. The problem with 529 is that although it offers tax exemption, it's exclusive for college. So if your kid decided not to go to college, you are screwed, because now it's taxable by 50%. You don't like that, right? What about the LIRP? Let me introduce you to the LIRP, which not a lot of people know. However, the rich have known this for the past 2 decades, have been using this as a tax shelter, okay? So if you want to know where the rich are putting their funds, this is one of those. LIRP is a tax-free retirement plan inside a permanent life insurance. Let me repeat that. It's a tax-free retirement plan inside a permanent life insurance. Why does it have to be inside a permanent life insurance? It's because of this tax code called IRC 7702. It says any investment wrapped around a permanent life insurance is tax exempt. Yes, you heard it right. Tax exempt. Doesn't it sound like music to your ears? Now, one of the providers gives you a cash value with a floor of 0.75 and a cap of 15. Now, it gives you an average of 8%. Now, let me illustrate that comparing it with your 401k or any stock investment that plays in the market. Now, as you know, in 2001, because of 9/11, the market went down -40. If you had 10 grand the day before on your 401k, that day you would have lost $4,000. And it would require at least 67% growth just to break even. That will take a lot of time, because every time you lose money, you lose time. So in 2007, I sold my house in the Philippines, wired it directly to my bank. Not knowing all my options, I asked my banker, where do I put my money? Well, put it in the brokerage fund. So I put everything, much of which in my mutual funds. So as you know, in 2008, the housing market crashed and my money went down crashing with it, losing at least 30% of my funds. You know how long it took me to break even? 6 years, because I needed plus 43% growth just to recover my losses. I'm not even talking about gains. I almost had a heart attack during that time. Now, the question that you need to ask is, at this point in your life, if the market were to go down negative 50%, you would be needing plus 100% growth just to recover your losses. At this point in your life, can you afford to lose money? Do you still have the luxury of time to wait until it recovers? Now, let me show you how the LIRP performs. Now, the LIRP is called indexing, okay? It doesn't directly participate, but it imitates the market while it's going up. So it participates in the growth up to 15%. That's your cap. Now, however, if the market crashes, you have a floor of 0.75, and that's guaranteed. That means you only participate in the growth, not in the downside market. So your investment looks more like an escalator rather than a roller coaster that you never lose money anytime soon. And here's the best part. You're not going to be taxed on it, and also you'll never lose the gains because of the floor. So with an average of 8%, doesn't look like a better investment to you today? Now, what about the long-term care? That is a game changer. In 2014, they incorporated this as a rider. What does that mean? That means it's not a standalone long-term care. Some of you may say, I already have a standalone long-term care. Let me explain to you what that means. That particular coverage is not an insurance policy, therefore it's exclusive to you and exclusive for long-term care. So if you die without using it, all your funds will be gone. Aside from it, it's expensive. Now, this long-term care is just a rider, it's an accessory. Therefore, you're barely paying for it. It's about $5, $10 to add it up in your policy. If you didn't use it, you don't lose it because it's coming from your death benefit. So if it's not going to you, it's going to go to your family. Okay? So you don't lose a dime. And it pays you 2% of your death benefit monthly if you lost 2 of your ADLs and it lasted for 90 days. If I were a provider for my family and for some reason I got injured, I lost 2 of my 6 activities of daily living while recuperating from home, and it lasted for 90 days, I would start once I filed a claim, I would start receiving, if I have a $500,000 benefit, that benefit, I'm going to start receiving at least $10,000 a month while I'm recuperating. That will replace my income for a while. So I don't have to worry about providing for my family. What are your ADLs? It's your continence, transferring, toileting, dressing, bathing, and eating. So even if you're not old, you don't have to. If you lost 2 of those and it lasted for 90 days, you're eligible. What if you start getting older and start needing care? That will kick in as well. So you don't have to worry about running out of funds paying for your care, because this will take care of you so you don't become a burden to your family. What about your living benefits? This is very important in today's COVID-19 situation, because they found out that it leads to heart attack and stroke, which are considered critical illness. So if you become critically ill with this LIRP, it enables you to access your death benefit up to 90%. So if you have $500,000, that's $450,000 while you're alive. But what about terminal illness? God forbid. If you're given 12 months or less to live because you're terminally ill, that will release everything regardless of how many months you have paid. Now, what about the death benefit? It is permanent. That means if you get to live to 100, it's still there. You don't outlive the fund. Let me show you how it's distributed. Let's say you have a $500,000 death benefit, and over the years, let's say it earned $100,000 cash value. If this were a whole life, which some of you may have, the family only gets whichever is higher, which is usually the death benefit. What happens to your cash value? Goes back to the company. But because this is a LIRP and it's called increasing debt option, everything, including the cash value, goes to your family tax-free. Now, while you're alive, you are the primary beneficiary. So you can access your death benefit through long-term care, which is 2% of your death benefit monthly, living benefit ranging from 90 to 100%, and of course in case of death. Your cash value, you don't have to borrow, but you can actually withdraw up to 90% tax-free. Okay? And you can also borrow if you elect to do that, and they will charge you about 2.75% in interest while it earns 8%. So it basically pays itself. So comparing it and applying the 4 cornerstones of an ideal investment, which is a good yardstick or a gauge as to how an investment looks like, let me compare the LIRP with this 4 cornerstones. Because it grows an average of 8%, basically it will defeat inflation and will grow your money. Because of the 0.75 floor, all your gains are secured. And because of the IRC 7702, you're going to be protected from future taxes, and because of long-term care, living benefit, permanent death benefit, and access to your cash value up to 90%, that gives you full protection. Can you imagine? One vehicle, you got it all. Who needs this? Everyone who will qualify. So let me show you and explain to you why you have to start needing to build a tax-free retirement plan instead of putting it all on your tax return. What to expect in 2026 when it comes to taxes? Well, the statutory rates will be as high as 39.6%. What about your capital gains and dividends along with other investment income? On top of what you're already paying today, you're going to be subject to additional 3.8%. You don't want that. Source was Congressional Budget Office, which they formulated 2 years ago, even before the pandemic started. Now, how should you allocate your funds to your favor then? Well, when you instruct the government to pay taxes now, you want to limit your savings, your CD, your money market, your mutual funds up to 6 months of your gross income, because you don't want to be taxed heavily today as well. Okay? Because these are your liquid funds, you just want to put enough there. Okay? Now, what about paying later? If your company is matching, then by all means after the matching point. Beyond that, you gotta put everything or the rest to your tax never bucket. So you're telling the government, I don't want to pay huge taxes tomorrow, and I want to do that legally by understanding my options. So how much slurp do you need? Use the dime method. So all you need to do is, especially if you are the main provider for your family, compute how much you owe today on credit cards and other unstructured loans. And then your annual income times 10. Add that with the balance of your mortgage plus the cost of education of your kids. The total of that is the total coverage that you need to replace you as the provider for your family. Now, we need major providers so that we can have strength in selection or the power of choice, so that we can design a custom fit solution for you. Aegon is a $543 billion company. Hey, that is our mother company. Is that big enough for you? It is one of those companies considered in the world too big to fail. Now, in 2001, they bought an institution called Transamerica that's been around for over 100 years in the United States. They bought it for $11 billion. They bought another company, it's called World Financial Group, as its marketing arm in the US and Canada. Through that, we are able to align ourselves with 75% of Fortune 500 companies. Although Transamerica is our brand, it doesn't make us captive because we are independent. Therefore, we work for the family, not for the company's pay. So let me show you some of our major providers. I'm sure you're familiar with some of those. Pacific Life, Nationwide is on our side, and some other major providers. Now, before we do anything, we sit down with you and explain to you how we can help you. So let me ask you, who sat down with you and taught you all this, the 6 steps to financial freedom? When we sit down with you, we're going to show you all your expenses, what we can get rid of so that you can learn how to live within your means and start having extra money so that you're not always short on cash. What about debt management? If we see that you owe a lot on your credit card and you're paying a lot of interest rates, we also help you get out of it so that you can be debt free. And then we can help you develop emergency funds so that you don't have to keep on swiping credit card. We're also going to teach you how to build wealth the right way so that you can also protect it from taxes and losses, and at the same time preserve it for your future generation. Who sat down with you and taught you all this? Nobody. We do that for free. So is there any reason why you wouldn't want to understand how money works and learn how to make it work for you? My name is Ernie D'Apera, your top money coach in Southern California. But it doesn't limit me, wherever state or whichever state you are, to reach out to you, because now everything is virtual. My number is 818-390-0155. Feel free to get in touch if you need help or however I can be of help. Stay safe and God bless.